Ori, here we go again with my obsession over coffee. I have two obsessions. One's water and the other one's coffee. I did a review on my Bellman, and I was pretty happy with the Bellman, but the coffee for me is just not strong enough. I copped a couple of comments in relation to the amount of milk that I'm using in my coffee as opposed to in comparison to the strength that it should be, and so forth. But to just to put all that into perspective before we go down the path of my new coffee thing, my preference of coffee is flat white. That's what I drink, and that's what I want, and I drink it in a mug, and so that's what I'm aiming for. If you're aiming for something else, adjust what I'm doing or tune out and go somewhere else, because this is what this is about. It's about the coffee that I like, not so much about the coffee that you may or may not like. So just trying to short circuit a few maybe future comments, but anyway, I'll explain to you what I'm about to do. Right, so the Bellman has been my preferred coffee thing for a little while now, but I acquired a Wacaco NanoPress, which is a hand-pumped coffee machine, and it's this thing. It looks like that. NanoPress, Wacaco that way, I think. NanoPress, sorry, that way, Wacaco. It's as big as my hand. It's quite small, and it's a pump press coffee extractor. So there's no milk involved in this thing whatsoever. It's just for coffee. Now, so here we have coffee grinder, beans, and I've already ground the beans and to quite fine. So I've ground the beans in for this thing here. I've ground the beans very fine. Similar to the product that you buy pre-ground from a supermarket, so it's actually quite fine. Whereas for this, it was a little bit coarser, and for the muka that I've also got, coarser again. So you can't buy, in my opinion, you can't buy ground coffee, pre-ground coffee for the Bellman, because it's just too fine, and you start getting coffee granules coming out through the filter, which is quite cool. Making a coffee in the Bellman, we've got a few pieces of apparatus. There's the filter that comes out of, or the basket that comes out of the Bellman. I use a silicon applicator from a pump pack, because it sits over the top of that spike through the middle and doesn't allow the coffee to go through there, so it's less mess. I then tamp it down a tiny bit with a piece of round melamine, which fits over the top of the silicon pump thing and sits just inside the lip, and tamps it down quite well. So that's what I do with that, and so that's full now in the middle setting for the coffee. So there's a 2, 4, and 6 cup. I think that's how it rolls. I haven't used it for quite a while since getting this thing, but so the basket is an internal part that sits inside this thing here, which lifts out. So it's a little basket inside, and you can tip it upside down. I'll tamp that down a bit. The coffee's coming out. Not that it matters. I'm not going to use it. I'm not going to use it anyway, so it doesn't matter. So there's a little tray inside that sits in 2 positions, upside down, one way, up the other way. So without the basket in there, without the adjustment layer in there, it's 6 cup, I believe. And then if you put it in one way, it sits, the level inside is slightly lower. Tip it upside down, and it's because it's an offset stalk. Anyway, so it's 6, 4, and 2. So this is set at 4 because set it at 2, it's just not strong enough. The coffee's not strong enough, and for me, and so that's got a medium level of coffee in it. There's out of the 3 that you can do, and that coffee is still not strong enough for me. And yes, I use a lot of milk, but that's what a flat white is. Go figure. So we're rolling on with this thing here. This is how it comes from the shop. It comes in this little zip-up pouch. It comes with the little pump closed up, obviously, where it sits inside the pouch. And you put water into this end, and that's like a little cup. And it does actually provide a drinking cup that you can pour it out afterwards and drink it straight out of the machine if you want. And then it pumps out through this little tiny basket that comes with it, and out through this filter, metal filter, and it pumps out through the bottom of there as you pressurize it. And the pressure, look at the website, it explains how it all works and the pressure that it provides, and you know, it pumps up its own tires and has a, you know, pressure that comes from a cafe machine and blah 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 blah. But anyway, so that's the way it comes. It's for a single cup, which is small. So we're talking about a small old style cafe size cup, or a single shot, which in my case, I drink coffee in a mug. There's not enough of it. The strength of it is fine, but not enough coffee for a mug. Now, to put that into perspective, this is what I'm using in the Bellman for a mug. And if you've got to use more, if anybody's wondering how much coffee is in that thing, I'll tip it out in a moment. If you need to use more coffee than what's in that thing for a single mug of coffee, it needs to go to the tip, because it's just too much. There's enough in there, and I'll tip it out in a minute. So, not enough coffee out of one shot of this thing. So you can obviously do two, fill it back up and give it another blast, or you can buy this wonderful little kit called a Barista Kit, which is an optional accessory. I've bought the whole range of crap that comes with this machine because I freaking love it. It's awesome, and it produces really good coffee. So with this thing, you get a bigger water cup, which I've never used. You get more of the coffee pod things or baskets. You get a small one. I think you get two big ones and an extra small one. I think the idea is that you can actually pack this thing up. You can fill it up full of water, pack it up with the full baskets, take it away on a hike to your favourite hiking location, and have a wonderful coffee pumping it out. You know, I don't know. Maybe some people would do that. I can't see too many people doing it. So it fits onto there. Everything fits together. And you know, I would never do that in a pig fit. What I bought it for was the extra size baskets, which are this one as opposed to this one. So it's almost double the size of the basket, and that provides the amount of coffee that I require. It's got little caps that you can put the coffee and cap it off, so you can put it in there and travel around with it if that floats your boat. And it also comes with a little tamp, which doesn't come with the original product itself, but with the original product itself you can use its tiny weeny measuring cup. Put the flat amount of coffee in there. It fits onto the little basket. Fits nicely onto the little basket. You tap it upside down, go boom, 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 boom. Tips the coffee into the little cup, and then you tip this little thing and sit it on top and tamp it down. Pretty cool. And it probably works with the bigger ones as well. But anyway, but it also comes with this tiny tamp which goes in. Anyway, so we'll move along from that. So we'll get rid of all this crap because we don't need it now. We've explained how it all works and what it all comes with, and we'll be left with what I use out of all of the crap that it comes with. That is the large basket, the tamp, and sorry, one bit that I threw back into the bucket. Most important part of it that comes with the Barista Kit is this extension, which needs to screw onto the bottom. Of the machine itself, so it can allow that bigger basket to sit in there, and that's it. Nothing else changes. It's just a spacer that sits on there that can go back on there for the time being. And we'll get rid of that thing. Okay. Before we put this thing together, I'll get rid of the grinder because that's in the way. Before we go any further, one other thing that you can buy, and I did buy, and I use not a lot, is this pod adapter. So you take off the ground coffee part of it, and you put this pod adapter, screw that straight on, boom. What happens then is when you undo that part, it takes like a normal Nespresso, is it? Whatever brand it is. It's compatible with an espresso machine. So you put the little Nespresso pod into there and screw it back up in there. But you're getting a single shot out of that, and I have used it a couple of times, but I prefer a mug of coffee. That's just how I roll. So, but it's handy. It'd be handy for some people. Now, you can buy this machine as a pod, a NanoPress pod machine, or you can buy it as the fresh ground coffee machine, that option, and then option up to this and add it to it. I'm not sure, you'd have to check the website whether you can do it in reverse, whether if you buy the pod adapting machine, whether you can then go and buy the ground coffee part to go on it. I don't know about that, but the ground coffee is a better option for me. So once the course goes all back together, just for shits and giggles, it no longer fits into the little thing that it comes with, so it won't fit in there. I don't give a crap about that, I don't use it, but I did buy the model that I had before this was called a mini press, and it was bigger, and this is a mini press carry thing, and it fits into that, so it fits into the mini press. So if that's what you want to, if you like, you want to carry it around in a fancy container, just look for the mini press container. Get it for about, I don't know, $20 or something, you'll find it, and you can store it in that as you so it's not sitting thing. All right, so just for transparency, I'm not sponsored by these people at all, but just for transparency, I got this in September last year from my boy as a Father's Day present, and I use it a lot. I love it, so I do give it a bit of a hiding, and I've swapped it over 3 times because the first time the pump stopped working altogether, and the second time it kept working, but it wouldn't come out on its own, so it wouldn't pop out of spring loaded. You had to hold it and pump it like a friggin' bike pump, which was a pain in the ass. So it went back, and both of them were swapped over by before Christmas. And so I've been flogging this thing since after Christmas, and we were away in the van for a while, and it hasn't missed a beat. So whether that was just a shitty couple that I happened to trip over, or whether that's a thing, I don't know. But no questions asked. I swapped it over, no problem, and yeah. So there's been no issues with it since. But I leave it stored like that. I don't lock that in anymore because I don't know whether that helps or not. But it hasn't caused me any grief since. Put the coffee amount into perspective. This is the Bellman coffee amount required for a reasonable coffee with the Bellman. To get a reasonable amount of coffee, and what I'll do is I'll push that over there a little bit to make a little tiny pile. And this is the amount of coffee that I require when I make I'll make them a little bit look the same, so at least it's visually fair. So that's the difference is uncanny. Like there's nowhere near as much friggin' this side here is 2 of these things at least. And in my experience using the Bellman, this coffee is weak, this coffee is good. So don't need to be a mathematician or a YouTube coffee expert to work out that my problem is not putting too much milk in my coffee. My problem is a shitty machine not extracting enough of the oils out of the coffee to produce a reasonably strong coffee. And I use relatively strong coffee beans. I'm using the same friggin' stuff as what I was using before. This side, NanoPress, really good. This side, hit miss and weak. It's okay, but it's weak, and that has been my criticism of the Bellman all the way along. Okay, so coffee, I want good coffee when I'm off the grid. That's what it's all about. And if we we still use the Bellman for stretching the milk, steaming the milk. Still do that off the grid because there's no other way around it unless I boil it in a billy, which is 6 of one, half dozen of the other. You don't get cafe style milk out of that thing, but it's a lot closer than doing it any other way. So it does stretch the milk and it does provide that microfoam to a point. I've never had close to cafe style latte type of milk, but that's neither here nor there for me. I drink flat white. I'm not interested in the fluff and the froth anyway, so that's been no issue to me. So I still use it to stretch the milk, and but now instead of putting coffee in that thing, I now use this thing. So what I'll do now is I'll put the coffee in it and set it all up. I'm not going to stretch the milk with the Bellman because I'm at home now, or I'm at my factory now. I'm going to stick the milk in the friggin' coffee cup and I'm going to put it in the friggin' microwave because I'm not jerking around with that, because it's not about that. This video is about this, not about that. But anyway, so I'll set it up, put the coffee in it, put the kettle on, and so put the hot, because you put hot water in this little doodah. I'll stick that thing in the microwave. But at the moment I'll put the coffee back in its little basket. I'll tamp it down, get ready to put it all back together, and then I'll go heat it all up and put it in the microwave and boil the water and such, and then I'll come back. So in my world I'll be gone for about 5 minutes. In your world I'll be back in a flash. All right, we're back. Here's my coffee cup with microwaved milk in it, and so it's, I don't know, you can see that it's probably full up to about here, which is pretty much what a flat white is. And so that's hot. It's got 1 sugar in it because I take sugar. Here's my kettle. So for all intents and purposes, I've just steamed my milk out of there and I've stuck it in the cup. Got some hot water. There's marks inside. 1 mark inside for the full amount, and I've measured out as per the instructions in the manual that you get. You won't be able to see it, but I measured out that quantity for the smaller amount inside that cup and then scribed it with a knife. Just put a little nick in it about 1/2 centimetre long so I can see inside when it's up to that level, but otherwise it comes up to this factory level up the top here where there's an indication. So what we do is we fill it up with hot water straight out of the kettle or the billy or wherever, and then just lock it back into the container. So that's done, that's ready to go. So coffee into the little basket that sits into the bottom part of the machine. There's a bit of pressure in there because it's bubbling away, so we're just using a spoon to scoop up the coffee that we've chucked down into this table, tamp it down a little bit. It's like a tiny coffee shop from a doll's house, I suppose. Anyway, so as long as the coffee's not too high, so somewhere around about a tiny bit lower in the basket than the thickness of the bottom of this tamp. So kind of about that-ish. Give it a bit of a tap so it's, that can go straight back into the cupboard because there's no coffee on that at all. It can go straight back where it belongs, and we can get rid of this plate full of coffee for now. So that won't come out. Be careful when you tip this cup up because the coffee will come out and it will go all over the table. So anyway, I'll scoop that up and I'll put that back in the basket and we'll start this again. Just I won't edit that out because I don't know, who cares. All right, now we're back where we were. Now, a very important point is don't tip that upside down because the coffee will of course fall out. Any idiot knows that. So put it back in there. Just sits in there. It's got a little like, it's quite neat. It feels like it belongs. Turn that back in, screw it back up, and that's pretty much it. So grab your cup and then just pump, and it produces I can't remember the pressure that it produces, but it's pretty impressive. It pops a little valve in the bottom of it, and you just take your time. And it empties, obviously it's pumping the water from the top here, pumping it through the coffee. There's a small amount of resistance, not enough to give you carpal tunnel or RSI or anything. You should be okay with that. And then once it runs out of water, you can feel that there's no more pressure in that anymore. That's it, it's done. And stir it. It's already got the milk and sugar in it because I put it in before I put it in the microwave. And it's hot and it's all in the taste test. That coffee is stronger, same amount of milk. Just for the people that have got a major issue with the amount of milk that I'm using, it's the same amount of milk because it's in the same cup as what I was using with the Bellman, with half the amount of coffee, and it's significantly stronger. It's pretty close to the way I like it. And depending on what brand of coffee that you buy, you'll get it pretty much spot on. And you can, with the NanoPress, you can use grinds straight from the supermarket, or you can grind your own. It makes no difference. It's with this particular thing. The Bellman was a little bit hit miss. I could get it right most of the time, but every now and again it would go a little bit pear-shaped, albeit that it was a little bit weak. This thing, it's actually a challenge to cock it up. With this thing, I don't think I've made a bad coffee with it. Everything that comes out of it is pretty good. There's very little difference between one coffee and the next. It's a terrific product. I can't recommend it high enough. And it's to clean it. That's the other issue, because I'm also got major issues with water, wasting water, and that's my other obsession. So when it comes time to cleaning this thing, there is very, very little water left inside the water container. This screws off, can run a tiny bit of water through. I don't use hot water generally, I only use cold water, but you put like half a thimble of water in the top of that. It's enough to give it a small flush out through when it actually picks enough in there to pick it up. Gives it a small flush through here, and that's pretty much done. That's now clean. With the coffee pot itself, or the coffee in here yourself, if you actually tap it, it'll pop out in a puck, and there's bugger all left in there. So another half a thimble of water will wash that quite nicely. So that's now cleaned virtually. Unscrew this. I take the pressure off that. I don't know why, I just do. And with this particular thing here, same thing again. It's a very, very tiny amount of water to wash the coffee off. That's now done. Thimble off that. Every, maybe, I don't know, if you're using it every day, maybe every third day, unscrew that thing there. There's the little valve in there. It's just a matter of tipping a tiny bit of water over that, tiny bit of water over that, screwing it back together and reassembling it and sticking it back in the cupboard. So the cleaning of this thing is zippo. There is nothing to it. It takes very, very little water, which, as I keep mentioning, is my other obsession. And you end up with a fantastic coffee. Yeah, it's better than the Bellman, no question about it. The coffee that comes out of this thing is better, more consistent. It uses less coffee. It's more forgiving. You can use different types of grinds, right down to very fine. If it's not quite fine enough, which I haven't tried, but it's obviously not going to be quite as strong. But yes, it's chalk and cheese. That thing there's terrific for the steaming and the stretching of the milk and that. But yeah, and there's no more onerous. There's no difference in the workload producing the coffee part of it out of the NanoPress than what there is producing the coffee out of the Bellman. In fact, that will take more to wash that, I think. Anyway, that's probably neither here nor there. But there's no more work. You put the coffee into the Bellman, you turn the little dial, it pops out. You put the coffee into this thing, you pump the thing, it pops out. The difference is nothing, and you're getting the best of both worlds, a better coffee than what that thing will produce. But anyway, so yeah, so just on a passing note, It's a flat white. I can't stress that enough. It's a flat white. If you need to Google it or look onto Wikipedia to find out what a flat white actually is, just before you jump down my throat about too much milk, there can't be too much milk in a flat white because that's all that's in it. Anyway, cheers. Get yourself one of them, whatever it is, Wacaco NanoPress. It's pretty good. I'm going to stick with it for a while till I find something else.